Hola y buenos días. Me llamo Roberto Morris y soy el maestro de español. How about that? ¿Cómo están ustedes? Now, have you been practicing your Spanish? Espero que sí. Today we're going to look at the alphabet in Spanish and try a little spelling test. Then we'll go over what we did in our first class from this unit. And finally, we're going to introduce some new things for you to practice. But let's begin, as we always do, with our Canción de Saludos. Canten todos conmigo. Hola, hola, buenos días, bienvenidos, ¿cómo están? Todos juntos ya estamos listos para aprender. Muy bien. Now, one of the things that I'd like to do is to kind of review what we talked about in the last unit. And we talked about some questions and answers that were pretty basic to speaking Spanish. Okay? One of the first questions that I asked you was, ¿Cómo estás? Repitan todos. ¿Cómo estás? And we talked about a couple of different ways that you could answer this. Let's look at this. If you're feeling pretty chipper like this guy is here, you might say, Estoy bien. Estoy bien. Repitan. If you're feeling kind of so-so, you might answer, Estoy más o menos. Repitan. Or if you're just kind of feeling like this little guy looks like he's feeling, yeah, he doesn't look like he's feeling too good, you might answer, Estoy mal. Mira el pobrecito. Estoy mal. Repitan. Very good. I hope you're practicing that, and I hope you're practicing something else that we looked at, and that was this question, ¿Cómo te llamas? Repitan todos. Okay. Now, if someone asks you that question, how are you going to respond? Everybody, tell your teacher right now the answer to this question, ¿Cómo te llamas? Okay. Did you tell the teacher, Me llamo Roberto Morris, or whatever your name is? And remember, we also talked about the question like, ¿Cómo se llama tu mamá? And to answer that one, you would say, Se llama, and then tell your mother's name. So keep on practicing those kinds of things as we learn new things so that you don't forget those. Now, as I told you, what we're going to begin with today is a look at the Spanish alphabet. As always, the best way to learn is to practice. So I'd like for all of you to repeat the letters and the words from the alphabet as you see them. Have a piece of paper and something to write with ready for a quick test after this video. Ahora, presten atención y repitan todos.
América. T. Biblioteca. C. Ciudad. Che. Chico. P. Dos. E. Escuela. F. Familia. G. Gobierno. H. Hospital. I. Iberia. J. Juego. K. Kilo. L. Libro. I. Llama. M. zoológico. N, 9. Ñ, ñoclo. O, oficina. P, policía. Q, 15. R, restaurante. R, correos. S, 7. T, tío. U, 1. B, 20. W, Washington. X, xilófono. Y, yo. Z, zoológico.
All right, I hope that you were all repeating along with those and trying to say all of the words and the letters. Now, go ahead and take out a paper. If you have your notebooks, you can write it into those, and something to write with. Okay? And now I'm going to tell you the letters for a word in Spanish, and I'm going to tell you the letters in Spanish. See if you can listen and write down the letters for this word. You ready? Okay. Las letras son P, P, and then U, U. The next letter, E, E. Okay, then B, B. Let's try L, L. And finally, O, O. Okay, did you get that? P, U, E, B, L, O. How many of you got this word? Pueblo. P, U, E, B, L, O. Now that E is kind of tricky. It sounds like escuela. And this word is pueblo. The word is pueblo. And that leads us right into where we're going to begin our review for today. Now, we started in the first unit of this lesson talking about the question, ¿Dónde vives? ¿Dónde vives? Which was a question, where do you live? And we began by talking about these three places that somebody might live. Do you remember the names of these three places? And do you remember how to answer that question? ¿Dónde vives? Well, if you lived in a smaller community that didn't have a whole lot of people and no real big buildings, you would probably answer, vivo en un pueblo. Repitan todos. Vivo en un pueblo. But say you lived in a larger place with a lot more people. There are big buildings, a lot of people living and working in this place. You might, and if you did, you'd say, vivo en una ciudad. Vivo en una ciudad. See all the big buildings and things? Yeah. But you might live way out where there are very few people, very few buildings. Yeah, you might live in a place like that. And if you did, you'd answer, vivo en el campo. And remember, we talked about this in the first unit. We said somebody trabaja or works in el campo. So you could say, vivo en el campo. The thing is, no matter where you live, there are special services within your community. Now, I have a new question for you. And the question is, ¿qué servicios hay en tu comunidad? Let's look at this and see if we can figure out some of the things. We start off with this word, ¿qué? Que. Remember we talked about question words last time, and que means what. So what? This word here, servicios, servicios. That's almost the same as the word in English. Can anybody guess what that means? Services. So, what services? We'll figure out that one in a minute. Down here we talk about en, tu, that means in your, and here, comunidad. Comunidad. That's another word that's almost the same in English and Spanish. Community. So, what services in your community? This word over here, that means are there. So, what services are there in your community? Can you think of some services in your community? Raise your hand and tell your teacher if you can think of some in English. There are quite a few, I bet. Well, I tell you what, let's look at some of the responses to this question in Spanish. The first place that I thought of was this one. And you see, we have a woman standing out in front of this building. She's got a white coat on. It's got a red cross up here at the center. It's a pretty big building. Do you know what this is in English? If you said the hospital, that's right. Y en español es el hospital. Repitan todos. El hospital. You might want to jot these down into your notebooks if you have them handy. Another place, look at this building. And you can probably read right there what it says. Policía. And that's a cognate, so that means almost the same thing in English and Spanish. What is this in English? The police station. Y en español es la jefatura de policía. Repitan todos. La jefatura de policía. In jefatura, the word for boss is jefe, so the place where the boss is la jefatura de policía, or the police station. Go ahead and make a note of that one. And that should be pretty easy to recognize because policía up here and policía down there. Another community service that probably exists in your community is this one. The American flag's up here. Here's this guy. He's got his bag. Okay, and this is where you put letters to go out. Now, en español, what is this in English? Okay, it's the post office. En español es la oficina de correos. Now, you remember oficina from last time, that's a cognate, the office, de correos. Now, this was one of the words that you saw in the alphabet because it had the double R, correos. La oficina de correos. Correos are letters. So this is the office of letters, or in English, the post office. Make sure you get this one jotted down. La oficina de correos. Okay, how about this place? Here's a guy, he's got his slicker on, got a truck with a ladder on it, American flag. He's got his black and white spotted dog. What is this place in English? The fire station. En español es la estación de bomberos. Estación is a cognate for station. The station of bomberos. And bomberos is what are called firefighters. So, la estación de bomberos. Go ahead and make a note of that. Then we have one more community service that you probably have in your community, and that's this one. Here's this guy. They come and pick up all of the refuge for us, all of the refuse, so that we don't have to burn it or anything or dig holes. They take this. They keep our community very sanitary. And they're called el Departamento de Sanidad. El Departamento de Sanidad. Okay. So this means the Department of Keeping Things Sanitary. Well, tell you what, do you guys, let's look at some of these to see if you remember. What if you lived in this kind of place, would you say vivo en la ciudad o vivo en un pueblo? I'll give you till 3 to tell your teacher. 1, 2, 3, un pueblo. What if you lived in this place? I'll give you till 3 to tell your teacher. 1, 2, 3, es el campo. Well, how about if you lived in this place? All the big buildings. You would say vivo en, I'll give you till 3 to tell your teacher. 1, 2, 3, la ciudad. Okay, en una ciudad. Very good. You guys are doing a great job. Keep practicing that. A great way to practice is with the activity sheet. Ahora, saquen la hoja de actividades llamada servicios comunitarios. And you see this? Servicios comunitarios. That means services, communities. And in Spanish, they kind of put the adjective after the noun. So this is community services. Let's look at it right now. Oh, you guys should be able to do this one really easily. Okay. Go ahead and start off by writing your name. Voy a escribir mi nombre. Roberto. I hope you've gotten a chance to choose your Spanish name. The directions say, draw a line from the community service to the picture. The first one says, el hospital. El hospital. Let's see. ¿Es este el hospital? ¿Sí o no? No, no. ¿Es este el hospital? ¿Sí o no? No. ¿Es este el hospital? ¿Sí o no? Sí, es el hospital. Because you remember we talked about, here's the woman in her smock, it's got the cross up there. Okay, this is where people go when they're sick. Es el hospital. So the directions just tell us that all we have to do is draw a line from the name of the community service right down to the picture of it. Okay, so go ahead and do that. These are pretty easy. We've listed the 5 that we looked at today. So you go ahead and finish that up when your teacher gives you a chance, whether it's right after class or later in the day, or maybe you can take it home and share it with your parents and your brothers and sisters, con la familia. Saben que es hora de despedirnos. Para la canción de despedida hoy vamos a cantar La Bamba. And this is one we haven't sung. You might have heard it before. It's in the teacher's guide and in the student resource notebooks if you'd like to sing it from there. And you probably heard it. Canten conmigo. Para bailar la bamba, para bailar la bamba, se necesita una poca de gracia. Una poca de gracia pa' ti, pa' mí, ay arriba y arriba. Ay arriba y arriba, por ti seré, por ti seré, por ti seré. Bamba, 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 bamba. Yo no soy marinero, yo no soy marinero, soy capitán, soy capitán, soy capitán. Bamba, 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 bamba. You guys keep practicing. I'll see you next lesson. Until then, adiós y hasta luego.